coming to you from Folsom Field, where Colorado hosted its first of 2 open practices to the media and public, as well as their media day event. So a lot to absorb here today, Brian.
Yeah, there was a lot, and it was nice to actually see them play football a little bit. And I know it's just in shells, they're not hitting anybody, I mean, thudding a little bit, but it was nice to get out on the field and see some practice a little bit. And media day is always just kind of one of those things. I know for you and I that we're out here every day, it's not that big of a deal, yeah. But it's nice to sometimes sit down with some of these guys in a different environment. I like sitting down with guys at the table a little bit as opposed to just standing outside the gate. So it was a good time today.
This is a guy we've talked a lot about since he's been on campus, but Laviska Shenault, when you go into an open practice, at least for me, my eyes just kind of fixate on him. He is an NFL-bodied receiver with unbelievable skills. I mean, the sky is the limit for that guy. It
really is. I mean, you notice him right away. As soon as you get in the gates, you see number 2 in the black jersey, you're like, ooh, that guy looks different. And he's a true sophomore, but he stands out. And, I saw him make some plays today. I saw him drop one in the end zone, but when they're throwing as much as they do, you're going to see drops. So I don't worry about that too much. But, yeah, unbelievable talent. And I can't wait to see this guy play.
Neil Welk shared that he actually has to lift with the offensive linemen because otherwise they're going to have to take off a bunch of plates for him when he goes up there because he lifts so much. And who else stood out to you as you watched that practice?
Well, I like to watch the linemen. Not really to see how well they're playing because it's hard to see that when they're thudding, but just kind of see what the groups are. So I was kind of watching the offensive line groups, and something you and I talked about was just really left tackle or the tackle spots. And I was kind of looking forward to seeing where's Jake Moretti, and he was with the 3rd team today. So I know you and I wanted to talk about this a little bit, but I think it's time to set those expectations for fans and just say, hey, look, these tackles are probably going to be Josh Kaiser and Aaron Hagler. And so that was kind of one thing that stood out to me was, okay, I mean, the offensive line looks about exactly as I thought. So I think that starting 5 might start being solidified here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're talking basically 2 years removed from Jake Moretti's injury. Yeah. At some point, you just hope that he is healthy so he can live up to the potential. I think him running out with the first team O-line to start the spring game maybe got people's expectations out of whack that maybe it's another year away.
Yeah, and I will say I actually ran into Jake earlier this week just on campus. I was coming up here to do something else, and I saw him and ended up chatting with him. He said he was feeling great. So I don't think there's anything there as far as there's setbacks or anything, not that I know of, but it sounds like he's healthy and ready to go. He just needs that time.
And we're only, again, 3 practices in. Maybe it's just being a precautionary deal with him as we go along. So we'll see what happens there. I was impressed with some of the true freshmen. Hassan Hippolyte on the hoof looks like a guy physically that could come in and play early on. They've got enough depth at cornerback that I don't think Levon Wallace is going to be. Really long guy, and they had him at corner today. Did any of those young guys stand out to you?
Yeah, Israel Antwine is one that stands out. He's a big dude, and I've heard a lot of things about how strong he is. He stood out, obviously, on the defensive line. Colby Purcell, watching him play center, looked pretty good as well. I know he's a redshirt freshman, but, yeah, I noticed Hassan as well. Guys that's been here for a little bit, but Sam Neuer, I thought, looked really good today throwing the ball. I thought at least the period I was watching, he looked a little bit better than Tyler. That doesn't mean that he's in front of him right now, but at least at that point, I thought Sam looked really good. And so Dimitri Stanley is a guy that I noticed because he looked a little smaller than I thought he was. And but actually bumped into him as well, and he's doing great and really feels like he's acclimating to things well. So I didn't watch him run a lot of routes or anything, but I just noticed he looked a little smaller than I thought he was. But yeah, some of those young guys, they're standing out, and really that 17 class is standing out to me.
Yeah, another true freshman. He's, again, another guy that's not going to get on the field this year, but Daniel Arias, just from a size standpoint, looks really fluid out there. I like him quite a bit. One guy that doesn't really get a whole lot of pub that is going to have a bigger role these next few years than people think is Brady Russell, a walk-on tight end. Nephew of Matt Russell, I believe.
Yeah, in fact, I'm glad you brought him up because he was one that stood out to me as well, and I forgot about him. Just as you think about the tight end position, I saw him catch a couple touchdowns today. He looked really good, and you think about that position, there's only 3 scholarship tight ends. One of them's Darian Jones, who's still swimming a little bit. The other one is Popolowski, who is coming off the knee injury, and we think he's healthy. We saw him limping a little bit out there, but when you've only got 3 scholarship guys, but there's a walk-on Brady Russell that they really like, I think we're going to see Brady Russell on the field. He looked good today.
you kind of alluded to the fact that this media day event's not really for us. We're around the program pretty much every day. So I ask a lot of random questions. One of the more serious questions I did ask was, who's your most competitive teammate? And I was not surprised because, I mean, he's been very consistent here, but a guy that was brought up a ton by his teammates was Jay McIntyre, and you had some guys mention him for a similar reason, right?
Yeah, in fact, I sat down with both backup quarterbacks, Tyler Lytle and Sam Neuer, and I just asked them to each, I said, give me some guys on this team, anybody, offense, defense, that has impressed you throughout this offseason and in the first 3 days. And they both just said Jay McIntyre, and they just started beaming about Jay, about how his work ethic is off the charts and how he looks faster than he's ever looked, and they just said he is balling out right now. And so Jay McIntyre, when people talk about the receivers, they don't talk about Jay as much, but that kid's going to have a great year.
Yeah.
And as I'm hearing, I was talking to I can't remember who else, but talk about punt return. I said, are you in the mix for that? And he said, no, that's Jay's job. And so it sounds like Jay's going to be the punt returner and key player in the slot.
He had one bad night against Arizona State in that role. Until that point, he had been really solid there. Again, and he was another guy that stood out to me at practice today.
Yeah.
That's it for Media Day. The team is going to take Sunday off, and we'll be back on Monday.